All right. Hello, Whiskey Club members. Welcome to the October edition of Eureka Whiskey Club virtual tasting. As always, Trevor here. Try to have some mood lighting tonight, I think. Halloween tomorrow. And please don't give me, I was thinking about dressing up, but I decided not to at the last minute because my 2.5-year-old's on the mend, so I didn't quite have the time. But again, welcome. Happy to have everyone here. Really excited about this month's pick and being joined by our esteemed guest as well, which we will allow him to introduce himself here in a moment. As always, if you're joining us from Facebook and YouTube and you have some questions, just make sure you type it in the comment section, and we will try to get to as many questions as possible. We do have a couple great prizes to give away, and I'm not going to say quite yet because I want to give our guests the opportunity to kind of tell us about those prizes. So, Jared, without further ado, can you introduce yourself to our members and tell us who you are and what you do, and then maybe tell us a little bit about the 2 bottles we're giving away tonight?
Sure. So, hi, everyone. My name is Jared. I'm one of the founders of Traverse City Whiskey, along with my partners, Chris and Moti. Let's see. Introduce the bottles we're giving away. There are 2 prizes that we're giving away to the best questions. Is that what you asked me to do, Trevor?
Yeah, any order is fine.
So we got 2 things going on. 2 things to award tonight. One is a bottle of our barrel proof cherry whiskey, which I will grab in a second. I don't have that one right next to me, but that is a really cool thing that we do every summer when we do the cherry harvest. So one thing you may or may not know about Traverse City, it's the cherry capital of the world. And, our company, even though we're whiskey fanatics and we built a place on bourbon and said it's the only thing we'll ever make. I mean, the place is totally surrounded by cherries. You can't drive or walk or fly in any direction more than 50 feet without stumbling upon a bunch of cherry trees in a row. So my co-founder's partner, my co-founder and partner, Chris's family, they've got a gigantic cherry orchard. We go there on the first day of the harvest and we shake the first tree, take the cherries off the first tree. It goes straight into the tank, which is really, really cool. The tank is full of barrel proof bourbon. I'll explain what our barrel proof bourbon is in a little bit and what makes it special compared to our regular XXX. We put the cherries in it and we change those out throughout the harvest. And a month later, we have a big cherry whiskey fest at our place in Traverse City at our still house. And, people camp out, we barbecue, we have a good time. It's awesome. And we do it every year. So we've got one of those keeps for you. And then the other prize that we've got is our founder's kit, which is so hard to come by these days. I don't even have any here. That is our 10th anniversary kit. Both of them only had about 2,000 made total. It's got little mini bottles of each of our 4 barrel proof expressions, including the barrel proof cherry from last year. And that's what we are going to be giving for the best questions tonight.
Yeah, so really two unique bottles. I think Jared was telling me that there's only about around 2,000 of each of these made per year. So start firing off those questions and we'll get to them at the end. So Jared, tell us who you are and kind of your background and a little bit of how Traverse City started and what makes you guys so awesome.
That's what I was supposed to do. See, thank you. All right. So my background is I am a recovering lawyer. I have been in the spirits industry now for about 15 years. I initially met my partners in college, and we ended up all kind of going our separate ways and then coming back together in Chicago. And one summer, this is kind of the brief summary, but one summer, Chris, who's one of my partners that I mentioned, he invited us up to the family farm in Traverse City, which is an awesome place. Just a really, really cool place. You gotta go there to understand how special that place is. And we were there. We were hanging out around a big bonfire that we had up at the place, and he was pulling out 50, 60-year-old pickup trucks and tractors and all kinds of fun tools. And we were just kind of getting our summertime insanity on. And he stumbled upon this box that his grandpa had a whole bunch of stuff that was in this barn. It was actually his great grandfather's farm initially. and in this box was a whole bunch of patents. And we started talking about it. And I was already in the spirits business with Moti. We were doing something completely different at the time. And he just basically said, this is really cool. A week later, had a conversation and basically said, doing consulting and it's annoying. Like, I want to go, give me a reason to go home. And he wanted to do this, and we bought in and said, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. So we stopped what we were doing. We kind of did a 180. We went and opened a distillery and started working on that. Started building the initial distillery on the farm in Empire, Michigan. The name at the time was not supposed to be Traverse City Whiskey Co. We ended up not being allowed to open that. TTB would not give us a permit because it was zoned as a residence. And even though it was an outbuilding, and we had to move, we built our first place downtown, and the rest is history. We're building our third distillery right now, and we're very excited about it. It's going to be amazing. It's got a 24-inch Vendome column. It's already in the building. It's going to crank out about 24,000 barrels of bourbon a year. It'll make us the largest producer in Michigan, and we're hoping to be able to supply a lot of our neighbors as we grow. There was no one really there to help us out, so we ended up having to work with partners in 4 different states to try and accommodate our growth while we were trying to be able to afford this vision that we had. And it's going to be a really special place. So we're already working with farmers in the area to make really unique products, unique grains. We're going to be planting grains and planting some really unique things that are still a secret, that are going in the ground right now, actually, on our property. And going to be lots of cool things coming out of this distillery next year. So we're really psyched about that. What else can I say? Well, it's a whiskey co. because we love whiskey. At the time, that was what we were really into. As we've grown over the years, we started to really fall in love with a whole bunch of other spirits. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future you see some other fun innovations out of us. But the first thing that we did that was kind of outside the whiskey sphere was one of our distiller, Curtis, he always experiments, and he came up with this one gin recipe that focused on cedar as the primary non-juniper aroma. Literally fresh cut cedar, and it went right in the basket. And it's like one of the coolest things. We barrel age it for 3 weeks. It's called North Coast Rye. And that was the first product that we made that was not a pure whiskey. Still connected though, because it sits in the barrel. But so that's a fun little fact. Let's see. What else can I tell you?
So you obviously, being a lawyer, I'm sure you you're driven to drink a lot. When you work, and are you but like what led you to the spirits industry? Like, was it just a passion for whiskey in general, or like what was that decision? What was based around that decision?
I mean, oddly enough, it was my last year of law school that led me into the liquor industry, which was a complete fluke. I skipped Thanksgiving, which my mother still hasn't forgiven me for. I ended up going with Moti to France over Thanksgiving. I don't know what it was, 15 or so years ago. And at the time, Northwest Airlines sent out a flash sale, and we ended up getting tickets for $200. And I'm like, well, for $200, I'm going to Paris. So said au revoir to the turkey, and told my mom I'm not going to be there. I'm actually going to Paris when 11 o'clock at night. See you in a few days. And it was while we were there that we were stumbled to get out of the rain. We stumbled into a gourmet exposition in the Marais area in like the Latin Quarter of Paris. And inside this place was this very elaborate, very, very elaborate display of this blue liqueur that was sort of like blue Curacao, except not a fake blue Curacao kind of a color. And I was really interested in where the color came from. So I started talking to the guy about how they got that color. And he started explaining to me that it was from red cabbage that they had boiled in lemon juice. And the French do things in a really very authentic way. You can't just get the red cabbage color. You got to like grow the red cabbage and soak it in the lemons from the lemon tree that you've been growing in your basement. Like, it's very, 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 very granola. And it was really cool. And I said, I'd love to learn how the guy did it. He's like, oh, you took it so seriously. I don't know if you've ever been to Europe, but you ask someone for directions. Next thing you know, they're walking with you for an hour and a half just to show you where to go. It was the same kind of an idea. I made a mistake asking, like, how is this color made? Next thing you know, it's like, oh, hang on a minute. Let me pull out the pot. Let me show you how I did it. Let's, this will stay here for 3 hours while I do this, and my assistant will get this thing going on. We ended up becoming buddies. He introduced me to the owner of that company. We were invited back in February and, to stay there for a week, which was in Cognac. And they were a distiller for Remy Martin, Hennessy, and Martell, a very well-known producer, actually, for them. They partner with hundreds of producers in the area and all the different Cognac regions to do what they're doing. And it was kind of a crash course in the spirits business. Did that, came back again for a month at some point shortly thereafter, and helped them develop an extension on that brand, which was called Orange Blue. And then we created a vodka brand called Dragon Blue, which was a 3-grain vodka. It was the first vodka like it at the time. Most of them were made only from 1 grain, either corn or wheat or whatever, or rye. And this was made from wheat, barley, and rye. It was really neat. We used Jean Sec spring water, which is like some of the most famous water that there is in the world. It's a very, very high calcium content. And I loved that vodka. That was my baby. We really were pounding the pavement trying to sell that vodka. The problem is we launched the vodka literally on the same day that the economy melted down, like 15 years ago. It was very, very difficult. Nobody wanted to carry anything new. We didn't start with a lot of money, and we ran out of whatever money we had very quickly and had like fumes left. So when we were up north and we had this conversation, it was pretty obvious. Like we were really burning the candle on both ends when it came to vodka. And we loved it. We still have it. I still drink it. We actually still sell it just in Michigan. But a lot of people are fans of this brand. But
what's it called?
It's called Dragon Blue, BLEU. There's a whole story about where the name comes from. We don't have time for it right now. But just know that it's very clever and cute. And the rest is history. We had a close friend who was already in the whiskey business. He had been in the spirits business for a while, my friend Dave Schmier, and he was the founder of Redemption Rye. He kind of showed us the ropes, gave us some training wheels, and then from there on, it was the 3 of us, and we put together the first 4 batches on our own. We used the facilities at Ugly Dog Distilling to do it. They became good friends of ours, and the original owner, John Dyer, he's no longer in the business, but it was just amazing what we were able to put together at that time. And then we opened up our distillery in Traverse City shortly thereafter, and we've been having all kinds of fun.
And how long has the distillery been around for?
That distillery has been around since 13, 14. It's kind of confusing because we have a sign that says opening spring 2013, and then we have another one that says opening spring 2014. And there were certain things that just weren't ready yet. I think we had like a certificate of occupancy problem. Then when we finally had the first customer come into the tasting room, it was actually a year later. So now the running joke in the company is just, whatever we have going on, we put a banner of it that says opening in spring 2013. It's also in the wall in the bottling floor. So just to remind people that sometimes things take a little longer than expected. But it's been around for about a decade, and we expanded into another facility. We added another one in 16, like January of 16. We outgrew the place on 14th Street really fast, and we underestimated. We thought we were really clever. We put like the pipes are up in the ceiling. We had pumps to transfer things from the back room to the front room because it's kind of built sort of like a railroad style. You got these 3 little compartments in the building, but not like a really big space. And within a year, the business day kind of looked like you pull up to the building at 8 o'clock in the morning, you open up the door and you back out everything inside the building into the parking lot, and then kind of block the parking lot with your truck. And then at the end of the day, you have to put the whole parking lot back into the building, and then you leave. So that was sort of how it operated. And then we added what we call TC2, and now we just went with a couple of great partners that we're working on designing and constructing TC3, which is a pretty cool thing that we've got going on. It's going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing facility. It's going to have that 24-inch Vendome column that I was talking about. It's going to have some really neat facilities there for training and classrooms and teaching people about whiskey and tours and things like that. It's going to have some beautiful grounds and some special still yet to be revealed agricultural projects that we've got going on there, which are pretty sweet. Otherwise, what else can I tell you?
Well, so I will tell you that in spring of 2013, maybe spring of 2014.
I will just add that place was supposed to open 3 years ago. So, here we are.
Got it. When you first opened back in 13 or 14, were you guys sourcing whiskey, or had you laid down your own juice years prior? And then, to date, are you sourcing now, or is all the juice your own?
So at the time when we first opened the place, the idea for our brand was never to be certainly as big as we've become. The idea for our brand was actually, we really wanted to enjoy life and enjoy everything that Traverse City was, and part of the whole idea of moving up there was that we could kind of get out of the whole vodka game, if you will. This company was built because we love what we do, and it was never really built because we wanted to build a brand or anything like that. We wanted to really build a business and be part of the community. Think of it kind of like a bakery. You open up, you make 100 loaves of bread, you sell out by 11, and then you kind of go on with your day, and you're just kind of like part of town. You know what I mean? That's really kind of that's really what we wanted to do. And it did not work. It became, this thing exploded. Early on, we were able to get a few barrels of some really amazing whiskey. A friend of ours let us kind of cherry pick what we wanted, which was very kind of him at the time. We sort of went back to the well, and he did it again. And then he said, you're on your own. At that point, we sort of scrambled to figure out what we could do. We have some of the barrels that we initially had that we took and we just didn't really like. They're still here. They'll probably dry out before we find something to do with them. We just did, we did whatever we could. And at the same time, we were partnering with Ugly Dog to make us some stuff. And we started working with other distilleries in the area. Eventually, we became very close with Perry Ford at MGP, which was awesome. It was just as they were switching over from LDI to MGP, and we were one of their grandfathered customers. And he had made some special arrangements for us to be able to do some custom runs at some lower volumes than they customarily had, which was awesome. We have made products at MGP that no one has ever made and no one has ever tried except for us. And they are still in a warehouse aging, and they'll be out soon. They have been a phenomenal partner to work with, whether it was as simple as us sending in, specific barrels that we wanted to use, which is what I'll talk about with the barrel proof program, or, just getting funky grain combinations or shipping down truckloads of Michigan blue corn or whatever it had to be. They've been very accommodating and historically, and they were a great partner. They've had some changes. We don't work with them anymore, but they were great over the years. We've also worked with some other Midwest distilleries. At the time, Ozzie Tyler was great when they first opened up, and Death's Door was a good partner. Depending on what we wanted to make, we usually worked with some people that had extra capacity to kind of do it, when they either needed it, or in some cases you ended up, you'll see from us, if you get samples from us for some picks, that there's a whole bunch on a certain day. And that's because that's just when the production run happened. But we always we preferred to have it done over a period of time. So if we said, hey, we need to have some low wines ripped of 51% rye, 49% malt, can you send us 30 barrels a month, something like that? Here's the recipe. We would prefer to do that rather than have 300 all from April of 2016. But sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's the downside when you don't control your own destiny. As for what's being made here, we make some really cool products. We do make some bourbon. Almost all of the bourbon remains in Michigan for what we distill in-house, except for the first barrels that we made, which are going to remain aging for a few more years. We make 100% rye. We also make apple brandy. We make gin, and we have a handful of new experimental spirits that I'm not ready to talk about yet, but the apple brandy is going to be out in the next few months, and it's pretty sweet. We've got chaptalized and non-chaptalized brandies. We've got straight and non-straight. So for the uninitiated, chaptalized means you add sugar to the cider. Non-chaptalized means it's just pure cider. Straight meaning it was in a charred barrel. Non-straight meaning it was in a a new charred barrel versus a used barrel and straight, obviously for more than 2 years. But in this case, this brandy's been aged for 6, 7, 8 years. So we're pretty excited. That's just the apple brandy. We've got some other kinds of brandy that we've been making also. So it's a lot of really cool spirits are going to be coming out of here. And we're excited to have a new facility because it's going to allow us to take some of the products that we're making that are really onerous and make them in bigger volume and more scale on the bigger column. And it's going to let us free up some time to continue making more fun stuff on this 2,000 liter pot that we've got in our tasting room still house. So pretty stoked about it.
Sounds like you got a lot of exciting stuff coming up.
That's the problem. We have these monthly innovation meetings. We're just like, okay, that's got to wait, but this one is ready. Yeah, but it's got to wait. We've already got 4 things we're bringing out this month. Like, it's cool now because we've done it for so long, and we've been around for so many years that we have just like this ongoing list of like, okay, what do we prioritize this month? And every month there's like 1 thing that gets moved up and 2 things that get added to the list. So it's just this growing list of really cool options. We've also been doing a whole lot of fun finishing stuff for pretty much the whole time we've been open. We were one of the first distilleries to do barrel finished anything. Our port barrel finish initially came out almost 10 years ago. It was 86 proof. In some areas, it was like the most well-known product that we made, and it really had a cult following. Unfortunately, at some point, we couldn't get those barrels anymore. The regulations for port changed. A lot of port producers didn't even use wood or anymore, including the port house we were working with. So we had to go find other casks that gave us the same kind of experience that we were looking for. And after a 3-year hiatus, the port barrel finish just returned in sort of a new format this year. It's a little bit older, it's a little bit higher proof, but it's equally loved. And it's got its 2 stable mates, which are the sherry cask finish high rye bourbon, and then our 100% rye whiskey that is finished in a Cab Franc cask from 45 North. And Cab Franc, for those who may not be aware, it's actually a very old world grape. It's a very well-known grape. A lot of Cabernet Sauvignon have Cab Franc in it. It's becoming more trendy these days, I guess, although we started this before it became more trendy, I will say. But it is becoming more trendy, and it is a really amazing whiskey. It's really cool, really different, and it complements the 100% rye spectacularly. So the 3 of those are the inaugural finishing barrels. There's some other funky things that we've tried, some trendy, some obscure. For now, that's what's here, and we'll see where the future takes us.
Awesome. What's the listen? I think most outsiders or even most insiders in the whiskey and drinking communities, you don't think of Michigan as a hot spot for making whiskey, but you guys obviously are doing great stuff there. What's kind of the whiskey scene like in Michigan? Are there a lot of distilleries? Are you guys kind of like the only one doing these kind of things? Or just because when I heard you guys were from Michigan, I was like, oh, that's awesome. But I don't know anything about the Michigan whiskey distilling scene.
Sure. Actually, I'll tell you what, Michigan is sort of the OG of the craft spirit scene.
Okay.
One of the first craft distilleries. What'd you say?
I said, go ahead. Tell me more about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so one of the first distilleries opened up here about 20 years ago, before it was entirely legal, and had a lot of repeated issues with what they could do and how they could do it. Eventually they were able to open, but they couldn't actually sell anything to anybody, and it was really interesting. There was a professor here who recently passed away. He was a friend of ours. His name was Chris Berglund, and he was a professor of distilling arts and science at Michigan State University. Obviously, everybody's heard of MSU, but what you may not know is that MSU actually has had a program for decades for distilling. And Chris was the chair of that program. He was from Sweden, and he was absolutely a fascinating man who understood. The amount of knowledge that you could pick up from that guy in an hour was just unbelievable. He would have all these stills running at his place, and he was making ethanol on this one, he's making butanol on that one, he was making methanol on this one. He was checking them for, comparing the purity, if it was made like this or like this or like that. I mean, really like a professor and like a real chemist in the truest sense of the.
He was Walter Whiting it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. So we did his course, and that was absolutely fascinating. He really has inspired a lot of people in Michigan and outside of Michigan to get into the industry. I mean, some of the more well-known people, if you keep up on who's leading in the industry, and I don't even know where some of these guys are right now, but like John Jeffrey, who was at Death's Door, is now over at Bentley Heritage. He came out of there. Justin Aiden, who's got a great reputation. We love him. He's at Stranahan's right now. Then there's us. I don't know where we are, but there's a lot of other people. Rufino Valentine from down the road. I mean, he's a buddy. Michigan's got a phenomenal scene. I'll mention just a few distilleries that you may have heard of. One is New Holland Brewing. They're pretty well known. They do yep, you got it. So they do a Dragon's Milk bourbon. It's great. It's not my thing. I'm not really like a porter guy, but they do make other products that I absolutely love, including their Zeppelin blend. And they've got, they've been making malt whiskey in Michigan for at least a decade. I don't even know how long they've been making it. I actually don't know when they started making it, because by the time it hit the wood or the bottle, who the heck knows how old it was. I don't think it was age stated. It was just a straight malt whiskey. So must have been at least 4 years old. But they've been making that and some other really neat gins, Clockwork Orange, Blueberry Gin, just some really special products out of the west side of Michigan for a very long time. You have in Detroit some very small but really hardworking distilleries. You got Detroit City Distillery and Two James Spirits out of Detroit. Really unique things coming out of them. Detroit City Distillery makes a punchki vodka, which for the uninitiated, a punchki is like a giant donut that's stuffed with jelly that the Polish community in Detroit eats every year. And now as a result, everybody in Detroit eats every year on Fat Tuesday. So they make a vodka out of that. I don't really understand how, but I'm going to, one of these years, I'm going to, so I will be there.
What is raspberry? Raspberry.
I don't know. There's like, I have sort of a little bit of like an anxiety, like a punchki vodka anxiety, but I'm going to overcome it. I think this year is the year. So that's going to happen.
I mean, raspberry jelly filled donut is my favorite donut. So
then you know what? Then I think it's in the cards, man. I think we're going to Punchki Day for the Punchki vodka release. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
I hear it's great in the Bloody Mary.
When I was a kid, when you were a kid, well, at least when I was a kid, it was your birthday, you got to bring like treats to the class for all your classmates. My mom would always say, what do you want to bring? I said, I want to bring raspberry jelly filled donuts because they were my favorite. But I also was a little shit because I knew that half the kids in my class didn't like raspberry jelly filled donuts. So I got to bring home like at least one full box of raspberry jelly filled donuts on my birthday every year.
I love that.
So yeah, that's a little insight on how my brain worked as a child. But no, that sounds awesome. So yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about the Michigan distilling scene. Sounds like there's a lot going on, which is exciting.
A lot. There's also, another one that's out in California, kind of small, Journeyman. That's a small organic distillery.
Yeah, we featured them in the club, I think, a year and a half ago or something like that. Yeah.
I think they're formerly from Michigan. I'm pretty sure that he moved to Indiana. But still, they were in Three Oaks for a while. And Bill's a real craftsman. I met him the week that product launched, actually in Tennessee, of all places, years and years ago. And, he's been working his tail off to build his reputation. He's doing a nice job. There's also, I got to tell you, there's like a distillery in every town. So, I mean, you got like American Fifth and Lansing and Michigan, and you've got, Rusted Crow and Dearborn. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. Really, there are distilleries in every town. Every college town certainly has one. And in Traverse City, I mean, there are numerous, and it's really cool because we have great breweries. I mean, great breweries that are, they're among the best of the best. Like, we've got Founders, we've got New Holland, we've got Bell's.
OGs, Bell's. OGs.
Yeah, I mean, just I could go on and on and on. Shorts is just down the road. There's like, honestly, no shortage of great breweries in any direction. And now you've got distilleries, and Traverse City already gets millions of visitors to the wineries, which is some of the most beautiful and excellent terroir to make certain types of grapes and certainly to come visit. So the winery scene up here is spectacular. And it really is kind of like a booze lover's mecca. It's pretty neat.
If you drink enough and if you say Traverse City, as you slur your words a little bit, it kind of sounds like Trevor's City and being named Trevor. So I think I'll have to come visit. And
I can see that. I think that we might be able to get you like a proclamation for that one day.
Yeah,
it's a small town. They do those things much easier here than they do in LA.
Cool. Let's taste the whiskey, and then I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll go. Do you have the bottle of the blend?
Well, this is the R&D version of it.
Oh, got it. So all our members, you should have got the Traverse City barrel proof. I'm used to like hanging tags or stickers. You guys went above and beyond with this kind of like, I don't even know, embossed. Is that the correct word? I like, this is a next level kind of special edition. We got our Whiskey Club logo right there.
It's made out of pewter. We cast a mold and then we press it in there. It's pretty sweet.
That's badass, man.
We've been doing that since we started this program in 2014, 2015. The barrels that go into this program are really special. So we felt like we needed to do something more than just print little, silver Avery labels out of a printer, which we did. And then one day we said after the first couple went out, we said, man, we got this whiskey deserves better than this. And now that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. So this is an 8-barrel, a kind of a barrel strength micro blend. Comes in at 57.7% alcohol. And I could not be happier with how this turned out. I think you sent me a bunch of single barrel samples and they were all great. And I said, let's just blend them all together. Coming in at 115 proof, doesn't drink like 115 proof. The biggest thing I can say, like right up, every time I pour this, I just get like hit in the face with like this bright raspberry kind of cherry thing going on with like a little bit of dark chocolate. And then it tastes like I'm like dipping a raspberry in like magic shell almost, and then like sprinkling a little sea salt on top of it. Like it's a phenomenal whiskey. On the palate, I get like that brightness is again from those fruits, and then that milk chocolate, some candied almonds, and then finishing with just a little bit of oak and tobacco. Listen, I love all the picks we do. This is definitely in the top of barrels that we've selected this year, and I'm going to savor this bottle. Normally when we do barrel picks, that we do individual barrel picks. This being a blend, everyone in our club did receive the same blend. So as always, if you're watching live and you want to kind of comment what you're getting, but Jared, tell us about this whiskey. Tell us about these barrels, and give us a little more insight here.
So I will tell you that the barrels that you received were pre-selected and pre-tested, pre-drilled by both Curtis and Tom, who are responsible for putting together maintaining the gold master on our products, if you will, the model bottles, and making sure that the blend has the characteristics that we're looking for. Also making sure that the single barrels are not just of like a good quality, but just represent kind of the vibe that we're going for. So, we want to make sure that when somebody buys one or receives one as a gift or whatever it may be, that when they open it up, not only does it have great aromas and a great flavor, but that it also has, that it's in that it can be recognized and doesn't stand out. So we wouldn't put something in a bottle of barrel proof bourbon that might be, have too much malt flavor or something like that, let's just say. So we do want it to be consistent. So those were sort of pre-screened, if you will. And what's unique about this program, over the years, we made a point to sort of target the barrel proof program to be very different than our Triple X bourbon. Early on, the barrel proof that was out there was a result of some very old barrels. They weren't that old, but they're old now. Very old barrels that we were able to horse trade for some new products that we were distilling at the time, in particular 100% rye that some of our distilling colleagues were not making. These days, it's a little bit different. Many of the casks in this program are actually designed to age longer. They're designed to age slower. They are not only lighter char, so we've got casks from a couple of specialty cooperages in Kentucky and California in particular, some in Europe, that whatever. I mean, I'll name them. Canton Cooperage, Seguin Moreau Cooperage, Tacopal Cooperage, and Tonellerie. Can never remember their name. It will come to me. But it's a French cooperage. And these barrels in particular are wine grade casks. And what's unique about a wine grade cask, aside from the fact that it's night and day compared to a bourbon cask, the way that they look, I mean, they're beautiful pieces of art. They have galvanized hoops. They're shiny. They're sanded. They're awesome. But they have no knotwood, no sapwood, and most significantly, instead of being kiln dried right away, they're air seasoned. So these barrels initially started at about 18 months, and now we go up to as many as 36 months of air seasoning in these barrels. And we're one of the only distilleries that I'm aware of that's doing this and making this investment across the board for this entire product line, which has been the mission as of late. For anything that's going to be destined for barrel proof in the future, we don't want something that's going to be in a number 4 char barrel necessarily. It might end up tasting like an ashtray if it gets to 10, 12, 14, 18 years. So the idea is have a great quality whiskey at 6, 8, 10, 14, as opposed to great in 2 or 4 and maybe start to get over oaked. So air seasoning is a huge component. The quality of the wood is a huge component. Going with galvanized hoops is cool. You get a better quality age on it because you don't have aromas coming from the oxidation and rust on there. You got to remember that, the barrel picks up aromas from wherever you put it. So if you put it in a smelly warehouse, you're going to get a smelly whiskey. If you cover it with smelly, rusty metal rings, you're going to get smelly, rusty whiskey. That's the whole idea. So we really wanted to have a great experience with this and have much more aromatics than you would normally have. So we make the investment in all the barrels in this program. And our friends that come in to do single barrel picks, they see these barrels and it's just like, wow. Some of them are a little bit bigger. Some of them are 60-gallon barrels that we've gotten from here and there. But for the most part, we've got, nice 53s that are wine grade that were charred. We also have some of them in the program that are double oaked. It all depends. So here in particular, these are all American oak barrels. None of them are finished. And it really, I think your idea to put them together was really cool. This is not something, we've never done an 8-barrel blend like this. We do an 8-barrel blend actually as like a matter of routine when we make the off-the-shelf version. And that's where the guys sit there and they blend. It's sometimes more than 8 barrels, but not all the barrels. Could be from 10 or 15, but just a little from this, a little from that. But 8 barrels is generally the size of the batch. And doing it this way and having you select those barrels to be in the blend is kind of the first time we've done something like that. I think we've done 2 before where somebody couldn't make up their mind, so they just put the 2 together. Okay. But this was pretty cool. So this was a neat thing, and it was really exciting for us to do it.
Yeah, well, again, I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. And this is the barrels were anywhere from 6 to 8 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed. Sorry, my 2.5-year-old is trying to make an appearance right now.
Oh, lucky you. Oh, that's right. It's only 6:30 out there.
Yeah. But I couldn't be happier with how it turned out, and I hope everyone really enjoys it. So I have one last question for you, and then we'll dive into the Q&A from our members. Obviously, you guys do a lot of finishes. I'm curious if there's ever or what your favorite finish is, and then if there was ever a finish you tried that you were like, I don't know, either excited about or hopeful for, and it just didn't work at all.
Cherry wood. So to answer Linda's question,
that's your favorite, or that's one that didn't work at all?
Nope, did not work. It's nope. Rest in peace. That just didn't work. That's why it's not a thing. If it was a thing, you'd see.
Why didn't it work? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know.
Other than tasting bad.
Yeah, taste, aroma. It's a little bit bitter. It's just not a thing. They probably, I guess, maybe do some cherry wood smoking and things like that, but it just doesn't. No, it doesn't work. Some of my favorites. So out of what's still in R&D, we have a really interesting honey cask rye. We've got a great couple of different types of maple casks that we did. And we've actually, so, we do a lot of barrel aging of non-alcohol too. It's kind of the fun fact about us is we're about as big of a non-alcoholic products company as we are an alcoholic products company. So we make premium cocktail cherries like you'd find in an old fashioned.
Yeah.
Except we just make them a little bit. We make them completely by hand. And if you come visit us, one of the things you're going to say as soon as you walk through the door is, what is going on over there? Because there's like an army of people making cocktail cherries. But we also make barrel aged maple syrup and, just fun things that we like to do and some of the, the different barrels that we have. So we also have been experimenting around with products that we don't even sell and don't even intend to sell. We had some Jamaican rum that we worked on with our friends from Worthy Park in Jamaica that has been finishing for 8 years in-house. It was already old when we got it. It's been finishing 8 years. In some cases, it's been aging. We did get some that was new. So that is really fun. And we dumped some of those barrels and we've been finishing whiskey in those X rum casks, which is great. We've got some tequila that we finished for 5 or 6 years that we're now experimenting with some stuff. Yeah, there you go. We've got some tequila that we were experimenting in those casks. That's pretty cool. But I think that the stuff that's a little bit sweeter, I like because I'm sort of a whiskey fanatic and, it's kind of like a whiskey fanatic's cocktail. I don't need to put a whole bunch of stuff in it. It's just like, change of pace. Yeah. So that's kind of what I like. One other fun thing I will mention also is that we did just start doing an barrel-aged coffee program. We did one with a friend of ours down the street that was pretty experimental, but we just partnered up with Dark Matter Coffee out of Chicago, who are super artisans, and they've been to our place. We worked on a cocktail together. We actually did a small production of a coffee old-fashioned, cold-fashioned, if you will, with our friends at Craft House. And we used a Dark Matter coffee base. We put together the bourbon blend and we bottled it for them. And we've got this new, it's a really small batch, unfortunately, but it just came out. And it's this new barrel-aged coffee that is awesome. I opened it this morning and made my first batch, and I'm really excited. So that's brand new. That's kind of like hot off the press. And I love experimenting with new stuff and just trying the stuff. It's like, honestly, it's the best part of the job. So it's pretty cool.
That's why you're so successful, is because you push the envelope and you try new things. And
your words, thank you, I appreciate it.
You guys are doing amazing stuff. I'm a big fan.
We always feel like we're trying, man. We're trying.
Before we dive into these questions from the audience, as always, what we've been doing this year is putting our Spotify playlist together. So you can find that on Spotify if you just search for Eureka Whiskey Club, and you can subscribe and throw it on when you're drinking your pick each month. But Jared, you had a couple songs that you chose that you feel kind of encapsulate or represent Traverse City and maybe this whiskey as well.
Indeed. 1 second, and I will. Look, I got 3 kids now. Okay, I can barely remember what I had for breakfast. So 6s to 9s. That's our pump up song on the production line, and team listens to that. You still there, Trevor? Did you freeze?
Yeah, no, good.
All right. Sorry, it looked like
I was trying to pull up my songs. Go ahead.
Got it. You want me to wait?
No, you're good. You're good. Sorry.
So that song, the bottling line every morning, that's the pump up song. And the other song that I shared with you was Black Keys, Holland For You. And that is a tailgate song. So we do tailgates 3 times a day, morning, noon, and 5:30 p.m. We run 10-hour shifts. So that is when the whole team gets together from all the different parts of the company. We get in the back room over by shipping and receiving, and we do all kinds of fun things, whether it's talk about the day or we do show and tell on Fridays or Thursdays rather. And so sometimes you see this song gets played with some level of frequency. I think it's a nice way to part. And just kind of wanted to share that with you because if you come into our building, there's a good chance you'll hear them.
Cool. Yeah, and then really quickly, my songs were sorry, as my phone goes on. Anyways, was "The Sunshine" by Manchester Orchestra. This is kind of one of those whiskeys I could like drink out during the day, and I also maybe feel like Michigan needs a little bit more sunshine sometimes, I think.
It's not an unfair statement. It's not. Listen, this is no Denver. Okay, we don't do 300 days of sunshine, but I will tell you that in the summertime when it counts,
no, I'm sure it's beautiful.
There's hardly a cloud to be found from like June until mid-September, and then then I forget what the sky looks like. But it is really nice when it counts. That much I'll tell you.
And then my second song was by a band called Long Wave. The song is called Tidal Wave, and there's just a lyric in the song that is. I'm not going to sing it. So the lyric is, "You are everything I wanted. You're everything I need." And I just tasting this whiskey, I feel like this is just everything I wanted and everything I need. So those are my selections. And again, just go to Spotify and search Eureka Whiskey Club, and you can maybe listen to those songs while you drink some of this whiskey. All right. We're going to dive into some questions here from the audience. We got about 15, 20 minutes here. So Tim Moore asks, how do you feel your unique climate in Michigan and approach to whiskey set you apart from other distilleries?
That is a great question. Tim, we used to call ourselves the whiskey of the North. And one of the philosophies that we had early on was that, whiskey was always being made in the South, and nobody really made whiskey to scale, of any kind of scale, in the North when we started doing what we were doing. Some distilleries were out there, but their barrels were not aging in any environment that was open to the elements. If you see our new rick house that just went up, you'll see that the building is literally open to the elements, and we expect that will slow down aging. We will lose proof. It will be really interesting because we're going to have. So experts say that, which I don't pretend to be one, but those so-called experts, they say that below 45 degrees or 40 degrees, maturation totally stops. So that means that for well over 100 days of the year, there will be no maturation going on in our rick houses. You'll pick up maybe some flavor from the char, but from the wood, no. There's not going to be any movement. We elected to go with an unheated rick house for our rick house 1. So if you see some pictures online from our groundbreaking of the distillery from earlier this year, you'll see rick house 1 was getting the finishing touches on it. We actually did the we did the groundbreaking for the other building in front of the rick house. So there's some pictures floating around about it. So that is all open to the elements, and we do believe that we are. I mean, we are receiving, or rather, we are experiencing barrels that that have benefited from 4 seasons of aging. If you've been able to get your hands on, if you're fortunate enough to have a friend that waited in line, and you were able to get your hands on our most recent Distiller Select, I believe it was a 15-year barrel that was distilled, a couple barrels actually, that were distilled by LDI back in like 2007-ish. And we had them aging in Michigan for the last almost 10 years of their life, which really shaped those barrels. And when we bottled them at Barrel Proof, and like I said, Barrel Proof really has 2 meanings. It's proof that the investment in that barrel really pays off and is worth the money, but it's also at cask strength. And seeing a barrel that's out at 102 proof, that was, shocking to us. And the whiskey was phenomenal. But that is something that we're going to be experiencing more of. It's going to be lower proof cask strength whiskeys. So that's something that really is going to come out, and we're going to see more of, just because it is colder. In some places where it's hotter, you find whiskeys that get up to 140 or even higher proof. So that's something that's definitely going to have an impact. The hotter you are, the more water you lose. The colder climate you are, the more whiskey you lose, or the more alcohol rather. So that's something that's going to be there. But we believe that we're going to have more aromatics and better capture of the volatile organic compounds, or the VOCs as we call them, as the product ages. And we're going to do something different. So if you don't like it, great. If you like it, we hope you love it, and come check out how we're doing it.
Joseph Bradshaw wants to know, how long do the cherries rest with the whiskey for the barrel proof cherry release?
So the barrel proof cherry release, it is variable. There is no law about it. There's there's not really a set process. I shouldn't say that. There is a set process, but the recipe is more of a little of this and little of that in a semi-scientific way than a, measure 250 grams of this and 500 grams of that, which is the way we normally do things when we're getting, production ready. And the reason for that is, number one, we do want variability from year to year. So if you have the 2020 or the 2021, 22, 23, they're all going to be a little bit different. And we add or remove fruit as needed. The thing that's special about this is that, we use fresh cherries during the harvest. We don't use IQF cherries, which are like how we use cherries all year. They come frozen in a little ice ball. So that's a really special thing to be able to use fresh cherries because the season is so short. And everywhere where cherries grow, the season is really, it's a matter of weeks at most. And it just, as the climate changes over the summer, the harvest goes from here to there, to there, to there. And we have a very limited window, but the cherries come in. There's actually a video that I can share so you can see some of the process. They come in a sack, they go in and then they go out, they go back in, they go out. What we want is cherries. What we don't want is juice. There's some distilleries out there that do a thing with juice. We're not really trying to get anything out of the fruit except the aromas and some flavors that are very subtly like in the cherry skin and outer layers of the fruit. So we're looking for something that really, it has a cherry personality, but is not too fruity.
You may have mentioned this, but and sorry if I missed it. Do you take the pits out of the cherries, or they go in with the pits in?
They go in with the pits in. We don't want to do anything that's going to disturb the fruit and get juice in that product. Juice is going to make it cloudy. It's going to oxidize. It's going to give it kind of an off color, and it might have some like pruny kind of taste over time. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not what we're going for.
Do the pits impart any type of flavor into the
almond?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
100%, which is what do you call it? Not acetic acid. I can't remember that. There's a almond extract is what you get out of the cherry pits. I don't know why I can't remember what it's called. It starts with something like that. Man, it's going to drive me nuts. It's going to drive me nuts. It's a good thing I had the Google machine right in front of me. And of course, now that I've looked it up, I can't find it. Thank you so much, Google. You're really, really coming through. I give up. So acetaldehyde. That's what it is. It's acetaldehyde. That's right. So that's the almond compound that's in there. It's also in almonds. So that's where that comes from. But no, we don't want to get that. That's sometimes where you get that Robitussin-y kind of flavor, which, no hate to the people at Robitussin, got us all through childhood, but it's not what we were going for this product. So what
I think they make medicine taste better now. My son gets excited to take medicine. I remember when I was a kid, my mom bring out that bottle of Robitussin and I'd run in the opposite direction.
Yeah, but the Dimetap. The Dimetap I remember was good. The grape stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't even remember what that was for, but I do remember that the grape tasted way better than whatever the Robitussin was.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Our thing with our infused whiskeys, and we do a handful of them, and for good reason, and I'll briefly touch on it. It's sort of whiskey with hints of cherry and not the other way around. And as you see some other companies do it, it's very foo-foo-y and fake, and it's like hints of whiskey with, liqueur and like 63 other ingredients with a sugar content that exceeds maple syrup. And that's not the idea. These are products that are made for people who are literally, we are whiskey fanatics. We are whiskey purists. When we started the company, we said, we're going to make this whiskey. This is the only product we're ever going to make, is this one product, which was our XXX straight bourbon. We said, it's perfect. This is how we love it. We can use it in a cocktail. We can drink it straight. I can sip on it. I love it. It's great. Obviously plans change, but that was the whole idea. And, we're in the cherry capital of the world. So we got pressure from literally everyone, whether it was, our wives or next door neighbors or our own employees that we thought were bought into the idea that we were whiskey purists, up to the governor and even a sitting U.S. senator. This is like the cherry capital. You can't go to any business in town without getting something. Even when you get money at the bank, it comes in an envelope with a scratch and sniff that, smells like cherries. Everything in town is cherry. We have the National Cherry Festival. There's cherry trees everywhere for 50 miles every direction. So we caved in and we said, okay, we'll figure it out. At the time, if we would have had the cocktail cherries, we probably wouldn't even have the cherry whiskey, but we made the cherry whiskey and we loved it. It was like a cocktail right out of the bottle. Some people said it tastes just like a Manhattan. You just put a little bitters in it. And from there, as we started making the apple brandy, we ended up using fruit to make what we make is an apple bourbon. We wanted to use it in a hot toddy, so we created a product specifically for it. We did the same thing, working with peach, and we've got these phenomenal Red Haven peaches from a little farm up in Elk Rapids, and it's like, okay, those are amazing. We didn't even realize we had peaches in town, so we're starting to talk about doing peach puree and making a peach brandy, and you start experimenting, and voila, you got this peach bourbon that I got to tell you, our peach bourbon is absolutely incredible. It's become my go-to, and I'm like a barrel proof rye guy, and I'm just like, man, give me more of this. So these products that we're making, it's fun. Like, it lets us have fun. The products are great. They're really versatile. Bartenders love it. Customers love it. It's different, right? And it's really authentic, and it's made with products that are right in our backyard. So we love those. That's just the style, is whiskey with hints of. So it's all a little underdone compared to our finishing series, which admittedly is a little overdone. And that's also our style. And that happened with our port barrel finish that we did in 2014, when we finished it for a year before checking on it. So it wasn't necessarily what we were going for at the time, but we couldn't afford to do it over. So now that's the way we do it.
I think I froze there for a second. Sorry.
Just a wee bit.
Okay. Yeah, that's sorry. I didn't catch the end there, but I think you were talking about the peach bourbon, and that's a good segue into this next question. So Brian Johnson wants to know what cocktail recipes you'd use the peach bourbon for.
Okay. So two that come to mind. Well, three. One is a highball, which is awesome, mostly because we serve it with a frozen peach slice, which I think not only looks cool, but we also creme brulee it. And so it comes with, candied sugar on both sides of it, Demerara. And I think that's awesome. And I am a big garnish eating person. So, I think that's one secret to my personality right there. So as a garnish eater, I'm a big fan of the cherry highball that has the frozen peach Demerara candy creme brulee thing going on. I love that. But also we do a peach Rita with it, subbing it out for the tequila. And it is absolutely awesome. And then we do another one. We do a frozen that's got coconut cream, and which makes everything better. And that product is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it's such a good product. It's unlike anything you've had. And I would just say, if you have the opportunity to try it. You'll love it. So that's with the peach. The cherry. Did you ask me whatever. I'll just get into it anyway. The cherry whiskey is part of our our flagship cocktail, which is our cherry whiskey sour. So we make our own sour with fresh citrus. We're really well known for this. It's definitely the number one thing that everybody that comes into the tasting room says, hey, how do I make this? And we're totally transparent. Like, if you want our recipes, we will give you all the recipes. We'll give you all the ingredients, because we just want people to be empowered. And one of the fun things about coming to visit TC Whiskey is, we don't put ingredients on the menu that are designed to make the customers feel stupid. We want people to actually be educated and feel like they get what's going on. So we don't use terminology like one of my good friends is a chef, and he's like, yeah, I crust this with smoked Maldon. I'm like, I know what that is, but everyone else is going to sit here and be afraid to ask the question. So we're not a smoked Maldon kind of a place. And for those of you who don't know, that's basically a fancy way of saying salt. So we're just
smoked Maldon in my cupboard.
I bet you do. So we really, we kind of democratized access to great cocktails, and we want everybody to leave and be able to know how to make them, and the technique, the ingredients, and we'll make everything available to you. But the cherry sour is kind of that's our thing. So that's the number one thing that we use that whiskey in. The apple we use in all kinds of fun fall cocktails, the orchard, which is made with some apple cider. It's great phenomenal in a slushy. I like slushies a lot because they take longer to drink. So I think that's a good thing. But also the hot toddy, it's my favorite way to have it. Barrel proof cherry, I've never had it in a cocktail. It just goes in my snifter. So I can't tell you. There was a question about how many barrels of bourbon we release each year. That's a great question. I'd say the answer is between 1 and closer to 2,000. We have a pretty robust single barrel program that does several hundred, close to 500. And that's both for, great partners like Eureka, and also everybody from local companies to longtime friends and whiskey groups, and some charities. We've donated a lot of barrels over the years for some fun projects. So that's one of the best parts about what we do, is just hosting new friends and having them up and doing the pick experience. So that's a lot of fun.
Mark Horowitz wants to know, is there any type of like similar to the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky? Is there like something in Michigan that distilleries have partnered together to, allow consumers to go to multiple places in one trip? Or
there is a Michigan distillery trail. It's kind of coming back together right now. COVID really disrupted things. It was hard for distilleries to do tours. I mean, if you look at our website, I think it got updated today, or maybe yesterday, or maybe tomorrow. Today sometimes means tomorrow, with tours again for the first time since COVID. We ended up losing our tour guide, who was great, and we loved him, but he ended up moving out west. And it's been a real struggle to put a tour together. Tours are a really great way, not just to teach people and show people what we do, but also to connect with the people that are big fans of our brand and what we're doing. And it's got to be done in the right way. So I know that a lot of the distilleries in the area, what's really important to everybody is to do things the right way and give people a great experience. So that was something that sort of disbanded a little bit, but I think now it's coming back together. And, the fact is that as you do like a Lake Michigan Circle tour, you can start basically right from New Buffalo and just stop at distilleries all the way up to TC Whiskey, and frankly, up to the Mackinac Bridge. You probably can't drive more than 30 minutes without passing one, and almost all of them are worth seeing.
All right, we got a couple more questions here. Let's do two more. Linda Archer wants to know, what's been the hardest part of growing fast? Staff, resources, or space? Or all the above?
I was going to say yes. Space is the problem that has been the hardest, I think, to deal with on a daily basis. Resources, yes, sure. Staff, definitely a challenge. Eventually you can kind of solve that, but the space thing, it's amazing. Doesn't matter how much space you have, it's never enough. You always find a way to use it, and then you're always out. So it's incredible. As we've grown in the building that we're in, we've been out of space for 5 years, and we're like 5 times the size. And now we've got, a 40,000 square foot warehouse down the road that is full of stuff, bottles and, cardboard boxes. I mean, you name it. And it's just like, there's never enough room. There's never enough room. The ceilings are never high enough. I would say that that's probably, if we had more space, we'd have a lot more fun. So that's definitely a thing. But yeah, staff's been a challenge. I mean, it has been, it's not just finding people, it's finding the right people.
Yeah.
And it really means a lot to be part of our team. Yeah. And, we want to make sure we find the right people and that we keep the right people. And, we love everybody who's here, and they're really, they are what makes it happen. Just especially the leadership in every role, whether it's in the production, distilling, blending, bottling. The supervisors that are there are phenomenal. We've got a new production manager, director of ops, who's awesome. And even our accounting team's awesome now. Like we have finally gotten to a place where we seem like we have like barely enough people to get done what we need to get done, which is awesome. So hopefully we'll add to that, and that'll give us some more flexibility.
I got one more question for you, then we're going to pick a couple winners, because Jared's joining us from the East Coast, and I know it's late. Kevin Bird wants to know, the difference in the barrels are very interesting. What research goes on in-house, or do you outsource? What size barrels do you use to research casks for finishing?
So we use for finishing. Thanks for going through that list, because it's a long one. All right. So for finishing, the barrels that come in actually come in the sizes that are traditional for those products. So in some cases, they're, 225 liters, in some cases, which is like 60 gallons. That would be some of the, European wine casks. The sherry casks are even bigger than that. I want to say they're 350, something like that, 300, 350, maybe 325. We've had some that were pretty big, actually. And the experimentation, no, nothing is outsourced. I mean, there's all kinds of funky, some stuff sitting on the floor, some stuff stacked up, some stuff is on barrel racks, some stuff's actually in the ricks. So we do that. We do all of that. That's definitely I will tell you that the size of those things definitely makes a difference. We don't use any small barrels here. But the size of the finishing barrels definitely makes a difference. And definitely some of the bigger ones, we do end up finishing in for a longer period of time. I see them sitting there. I can't tell you exactly how long, but definitely longer, maybe 3, 6, 9 months longer in the giant, some of the giant casks, now that I think about it. This is not exactly what I do. I love tasting them. I'm on the road most of the time, but that is a really great question. And yeah, it does make a difference. But no, we don't do any kind of small casks. Everything is at least 53 gallons.
All right, let's run through these questions. We'll pick a couple winners. So we have the question about the unique climate of Michigan and a different approach to making whiskey. We had the question about the cherries resting on the whiskey. The one about the peach bourbon and your favorite cocktails. We had the question about how many barrels are produced per year? The question about the finishing, and then we had the question about the hardest part of growing. Let me see if I make sure I didn't miss anything here.
No, I'm having a hard time keeping track of those.
All right. You want me to run through them again?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So the one about your climate and the unique challenges of making whiskey in Michigan. How long the cherries rest on the whiskey? How many whiskey barrels do you produce per year? Bourbon barrels do you produce per year? The question about the peach bourbon and your favorite cocktails with those. The question about finishing and experimentation and how you go through that. And the question about the challenges of growing. And I think that's it.
So I'm gonna pick 2 winners. First question and the last question. Question about the climate and the question about the challenges of growing.
Awesome. All right. Well, I have the hard job of picking the winners. I think the most unique thing here is just, you're the first. Well, we featured one other in the past, but it's been a while, and I think I learned a lot about the challenges of making and just Michigan being a unique climate and area to make whiskey. So I'm going to say Tim Moore, you're going to get the first place, and then Linda Archer, you're going to get the second place. So we're going to let Tim choose which bottle he wants out of the barrel proof cherry, the limited release, or the Founders 10th anniversary collection. So Tim will be reaching out to you to see which one you want, and then the other bottle will go to Linda. Jared, thank you again very much for joining us this evening. Again, I know it's late there, so I'll let you go. And till next
time,
pleasure. And hope you enjoy your bottle of Traverse City, or as I like to call it, Trevor City. And we'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. If anyone's got a question, send an email over to the club. You guys can send me anything that they want to know, and I'll be happy to go through them and answer them this week. All right? Anything else?
All right. Sounds good. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.